Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, June 7, 2020. I'm Matt Donnell, and thanks for joining us here on Inside Story. America feels like it has been torn apart this week. In many ways, not since our country has experienced those dark days of the 1960s. George Floyd should be alive today, but he is not. His death beneath a Minneapolis police officer's knee has awakened us with renewed sadness and despair, but also anger, rage, and activism. More people now seem to be paying attention to issues that have been ignored for so long: racial inequality, economic inequality, police brutality, how we simply treat people differently even when we don't realize it. We still have a long way to go. It was discouraging to see how some people saw this as an opportunity to cause violence and destruction, setting fires across Philadelphia, looting stores already hurting from the pandemic, blowing up neighborhood ATMs. We will talk about all of these issues, with our guest this morning on Inside Story. Hilary Beard is a Philadelphia author who won 2 NAACP Image Awards for the books Promises Kept, Raising Black Boys to Succeed in School and Life, and Health First, the Black Woman's Wellness Guide. Asa Khalif is a civil rights activist who took part in the protests this week and is also a former candidate for an at-large seat with Philadelphia City Council. Hilary, Asa, thanks for joining us in Inside Story.
Thank you for having us.
Hilary, in the context of what we have seen in the past 2 weeks, tell people who may not be aware, what do you have to do differently to raise an African-American son or to become a successful black woman?
Whew, that's a very big question. Well, one of the realities of black life, no matter your gender, is that even though many Americans are moving through the world with wind in their face, the difficulty that comes with various aspects of black life, of life, American life, in addition to that wind in the face, black people are also walking uphill. And so we're walking uphill against a long history of oppression in various aspects of life, which ranges from education. Our schools are not fully funded. We tend to live in segregated neighborhoods with concentrated poverty, banking, employment. There is discrimination in our face. And so the challenge that we are faced with is how to raise our children with a sense of hope and possibility and understanding of their beauty and their gifts and talents in a world where they are facing at ages that are too young developmentally for them to be dealing with these types of issues that are facing them, including what we now call the Trump effect, which is coarse and bigoted language and treatment and behavior that our children are facing all too often in schools.
Asa, same question. How would you answer?
Well, obviously our children are definitely under attack in terms of a mental capacity because of what they see. It's our responsibility, and I agree with your guest 100%, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we protect our children as much as possible. We cannot shield them from the hatred of racism and the reality of racism. It is our responsibility, though, to prepare them, for them to understand, even at a very young age, that the color of your skin will have you be treated differently in America. And we need to teach our children this. We cannot sugarcoat it. It is very real. It's very real that they will be treated differently from their white counterparts. So it's our responsibility as parents, it's our responsibility as adults to make sure that our children are well prepared and to know that they have a place where they are still loved and supported by their family and the people who love them.
Hey, so you were arrested for trespassing during a protest in 2017. Your tactics can sometimes be profane, extremely confrontational and controversial. You have angered police, and some even in the civil rights movement have become uncomfortable with some of the things that you say and do. But your supporters will say that what you do is the only way to make people listen. What do you say?
I say there's room in activism for all types of tactics. In the 60s, it was Martin Luther King had a tactic of nonviolence.
Let's go over to Hilary. I seem to have lost Asa there, and we'll get him back for you. Hilary, many of the protests sought to show people, or at least to get people, to pay attention to the fact that some people who are successful didn't do everything on their own to become successful. And some people who are not successful didn't put up all the obstacles that they had faced. What obstacles in our society need to be removed right now?
Oh, goodness. Well, one of the obstacles that needs to be removed is denial, right? And so part of how American society is structured, part of the system of beliefs is this narrative around the American dream and that you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And so that narrative, which in many respects is a brainwashing, has required us to ignore much of American history, the history that has impacted Black and brown people in this country, that has caused us to have to walk uphill the entire way, to not be able to access the American dream, to not be able to access equal education, housing, access to the labor market in terms of employing, banking. We encounter redlining, we encounter gerrymandering. And so these systemic and structural things are in place. They've been in place since the origins of our society, and we keep building on them. And so even though today a person, and particularly a white person, may not go to work with racist intentions in mind, or may not be racist or see themselves as racist. Lots of times our society is structured with layer upon layer of things built on top of a foundation that was intended to oppress Black and brown people, and Black people in particular, to oppress us, to keep us subjugated, and to keep us from being able to fully contribute to American society, to be safe, to be free, and to be able to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the same way that our white friends and colleagues can. So one of the first things that we need to do is begin to tell the truth about who we are in America so that we can fashion solutions that actually get to the problems.
Acknowledging many things that we haven't acknowledged yet. Hilary, the looting has really upset a lot of people out there. How do you separate the damage, the destruction, the disruption from the peaceful protests that are going on and the message they're trying to show everyone?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the way in this country we focus on looting, but ignore conversations that have been going on for days, weeks, months, decades, conversations that my parents had. Literally, when my mother was pregnant, she participated in a sit-in while she was pregnant with me, having this exact same conversation a generation ago. And so anybody who's Black or brown in this country can trace back generations of this conversation and various ways that our communities have been looted through structural racism, through redlining, through gerrymandering, through us not being paid equal wages, through not having access to loans, to the underinvestment in our communities. And so our communities have been looted in that way, and our communities have been looted of people who are killed and we're witnessing killed by police, and that's not valued, and that conversation is dismissed, and that conversation is ignored. And so when human beings who have been oppressed and ignored, and a small fraction of them engage in looting, it's amazing to me how that behavior, which I don't condone and is morally wrong, how that behavior generates more outrage than the outrage generated by repeated killings of Black and brown people, by the fact that Black and brown people struggle to get a decent education, to be paid fairly in the workplace, to be advanced in the workplace and have access to opportunity. And so I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. I would not loot. However, if I were in a pandemic and I had lost my job and I had lost family members because the fault lines of this pandemic are riding right along race into my family home. And I had lost caregivers and breadwinners, and I didn't know when I was going to eat again. I can't actually tell you what kind of behavior I would engage in if I had the opportunity to and was forced to figure out a way to provide for myself, perhaps, or to feed myself, because I can't trust society to support me with that, because there is no safety net and I've lost my job, and Black and brown people have disproportionately lost employment.
Thank you, Hilary. We have Asa Khalif back. Asa, the vision of the police that we've been getting over the past couple of weeks is so complex. We have the killing of George Floyd. We have the tear gassing of protesters in Philadelphia, which is now under review by the police commissioner in Philadelphia. And we also have pictures of police officers kneeling with protesters, hugging them, speaking to them, connecting with them. And I know that you have a very fractured relationship with police, particularly because you lost a cousin in a killing during a traffic stop. How are you putting this picture together right now?
Well, I think, first of all, we don't need a picture of symbolism. What we need is complete, real justice reform when it comes to how police interact and how police police Black and brown bodies. That's number one. We need to change the laws that will protect Black and brown people when they come in contact with the police. In terms of Brandon Tate Brown, who was my cousin, who was also murdered, in my opinion, by the Philadelphia police, you know, it's very traumatic, not only for me, but for all individuals who have lost loved ones to police violence here in Philadelphia and around this country. So yeah, it's a complex situation when it comes to the police. Am I saying all police officers are bad or good? But that's not for me to determine. That's for them to make that that determination. When they stand there, are they going to be silent, like the 4 officers who were involved, the 3 officers involved with the murder of our brother that we just lost in Minneapolis, Brother Floyd? I mean, what are police are going to do when it comes to standing up for what's right regarding Black and brown people? And so I'm not here to, you know, hold hands with the police. That's their job. Their job is to protect people. Their job is to protect all people. And so I'm not going to take a knee with them until they get on the stand and testify against their fellow officers who murder and beat and brutalize people of color. So yeah, when they start doing that, then maybe we can start talking about these knee taking and symbolisms and stuff. But we need complete, real reform regarding the police and how they police Black and brown bodies. We don't need selfies of police officers taking pictures of them taking a knee and then are silent when they're out in the streets and they see their partners beating Black and brown people and they turn the other way. So we don't need symbolism. We need complete justice reform for people of color, period.
Strong words from Asa Khalif. I know people at home are uncomfortable, to say the least, from what you said, Asa. What I hope is that somehow these both sides can start having a conversation where they can try and understand each other and to try and reach common ground so that we can move forward. We can have a more positive relationship with everyone here, because everyone deserves to have a good life on this here earth and in this country. Asa Khalif, Hilary Beard, thank you for joining us on Inside Story.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
I want to also tell you that we're having a town hall called Race, Rage, and Healing. Where do we go from here? An African-American town hall series. Join Shari Williams, our Action News anchor, right here on 6ABC at 12:30 p.m. We will also stream this discussion on 6abc.com. Make sure you join Shari. I'm Matt Donnell. That's Inside Story for this week. Action News is next.